Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us today. I did want to take a minute to let you know that this media update is being recorded. Veuillez noter que ce point presse est en cours d'enregistrement. Merci. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Krause. I am a Parks Canada Information Officer, and I will be moderating the media briefing today. I'm going to begin by making some introductions in English, and those will follow in French, so please bear with us. I'm here today with François Mas, Parks Canada Superintendent of the Lake Louise Yoho and Kootenay Field Unit. François, if you could give everyone a wave. Thank you. We're also joined by Lisa Paulson, Visitor Safety Specialist with Parks Canada, and by Corporal Gina Slaney, Public Information Officer with Alberta RCMP Media Group. And Robin, if I could ask you to please add their names and titles into the chat.
Yep.
Great. Okay, bonjour, je m'appelle Amy Krause. Je suis une agente d'information à Parcs Canada et j'animerai la séance d'information destinée aux médias aujourd'hui. Je suis ici avec François Mas, directeur de l'unité de gestion de Lake Louise, Yoho et Kootenay de Parcs Canada. Nous sommes également accompagnés de Lisa Paulson, spécialiste de la sécurité des visiteurs Parcs Canada, et de Caporal Gina Slaney, agente d'information publique, groupe des médias de la GRC de l'Alberta. Nous ajouterons leurs noms et titres dans le chat. Thank you. Okay, I'd now like to invite Superintendent François Mas to share his opening remarks.
Thank you, Amy. So on June 19th at approximately 1 p.m., Parks Canada received a report of a serious rockfall incident near Bow Glacier Falls, located west of Bow Lake on the Icefields Parkway. That's approximately 37 kilometers north of Lake Louise in Banff National Park. This is about a 1.5-hour drive from the town of Banff for a 45-minute helicopter flight time. Parks Canada Visitor Safety Specialists from Banff and Jasper National Parks responded with RCMP and support from the Lake Louise Fire Department, Banff Fire Department, Stars Air Ambulance, Alpine Helicopters, Alberta Health Services EMS, Banff EMS, Kanaskis Mountain Rescue Alberta Parks, and other agencies. RCMP confirmed that one person was located deceased at the scene. 2 individuals were evacuated by Stars Air Ambulance and 1 by ground ambulance. Search and rescue teams evacuated 13 visibly injured visitors and uninjured bystanders. A Parks Canada search and rescue dog team arrived on site the afternoon of June 19th and identified the location of a second deceased individual. However, due to instability and continued hazard, Parks Canada was unable to safely recover the deceased that evening. An aerial search continued until dark, and Parks Canada wardens and RCMP remained on site overnight to ensure security. At 5 a.m., Canada Task Force 2 began infrared drone flights through their partners in the Calgary Police Service, followed by investigative action at the site with a Xistios thermal imaging camera. Teams conducted a 360-degree assessment in areas of interest and found no indication of human presence. At 6 a.m., a Canada Task Force 1 geotechnical engineer conducted a slope stability assessment, which allowed visitor safety specialists to recover the remaining deceased individual from the site prior to expected snowfall. Parks Canada and RCMP are able to report that no additional persons are believed to be missing at Bow Glacier Falls. An area closure remains in place for the immediate vicinity of Bow Glacier Falls for safety. Geotechnical assessments indicate that this tragic rockfall was the result of a natural process common in mountain areas. Sadly, this extremely rare event appears to have been neither preventable nor predictable. However, safety is our top priority, and Parks Canada will take time to consider all options before making decisions related to the reopening of the area. Parks Canada and the RCMP would like to thank our partners in safety on this incident, including the Kananaskis Mountain Rescue Alberta Parks, Lake Louise Fire Department, Banff Fire Department, STARS Air Ambulance, Alpine Helicopters, Alberta Health Services EMS, Banff EMS, Canada Task Force 1, Canada Task Force 2, and the Calgary Police Service. I would also like to acknowledge the amazing support for victims and responders provided by ID9 and the staff at the lodge at Bow Lake. In total, there was an estimated 100 personnel that were involved in responding to this incident. Parks Canada and the RCMP extend our deepest condolences to the families and friends of the two individuals who lost their lives. Our thoughts also remain with those in hospital, and we hope for their full recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Francois. Okay, before we open the floor to questions from media, I will go over a few housekeeping announcements. To ask a question, for media who are joining us online, please use the hand-raising function at the top of the screen. For media who may be joining us by phone, please use *5 to raise your hand. We ask that you keep it to one question and one follow-up. We do have quite a few people on the call today. Before asking your question, please state your name and media outlet. When you do have a question, please wait to be called upon. And you can also use the chat function to ask your question. So if we don't have enough time to answer during the session, we will follow up with you later. I'll now repeat this information in French before opening the floor to questions. Avant de passer aux questions, j'ai quelques annonces d'ordre administratif. Pour les médias qui se joignent à nous en ligne, veuillez utiliser la fonction lever la main si vous avez une question. Pour médias, Pour les médias qui se joignent à nous par téléphone, veuillez utiliser *5 pour lever la main. Nous vous demandons de vous en tenir à une question et une suivi. Avant de poser votre question, veuillez déclarer votre nom et votre bureau de presse. Lorsque vous avez une question, veuillez attendre que je vous nomme. Vous pouvez aussi utiliser la fonction chat pour vous poser vos questions. Si nous n'avons pas assez de temps pour y répondre, nous ferons le suivi avec vous après la séance. Before we begin, I would just like to allow Francois an opportunity to read the statement that we provided earlier in French for the benefit of the guests who are joining us today in French. Francois, please go ahead.
Merci, Amy. Le 19 juin, vers 13h, Parc Canada a reçu un rapport d'un grave éboulement près des chutes du glacier Bow, situé à l'ouest du lac Bow sur la promenade des glaciers, à environ 37 km au nord de Lake Louise, dans le Parc national de Banff. C'est environ à 1h30 de route de la ville de Banff ou un vol de 45 minutes en hélicoptère. Les spécialistes de la sécurité des visiteurs de Parc Canada, des parcs nationaux Banff et Jasper sont intervenus avec la GRC et soutien de l'équipe de sauvetage en montagne Kananaskis de Parc Alberta, du service d'incendie de Lake Louise, du service d'incendie de Banff, de l'ambulance aérienne STARS, de l'hélicoptère Alpine, des services médicaux d'urgence de l'Alberta, des services médicaux d'urgence de Banff, de Associated Nordic et d'autres organismes. La GRC a confirmé qu'une personne avait été retrouvée décédée sur les lieux. 2 personnes ont été évacuées par hélicoptère STARS Air Ambulance et une autre par ambulance terrestre. Les équipes de recherche et de sauvetage ont évacué 13 visiteurs visiblement blessés et des passants indemnes. Une équipe de chiens de recherche et sauvetage de Parc Canada est arrivée sur les lieux dans l'après-midi du 19 juin et a localisé le corps d'une 2e personne décédée. Cependant, en raison de l'instabilité et du danger persistant, Parc Canada n'a pas été en mesure de récupérer le corps en toute sécurité ce soir-là. Les recherches aériennes se sont poursuivies jusqu'à la tombée de la nuit. Les gardes de Parc Canada et la GRC sont restés sur place toute la nuit pour assurer la sécurité. À 5 heures le lendemain matin, la Force opérationnelle Canada 2 a commencé des vols de drones infrarouges par l'intermédiaire de ses partenaires du service de police de Calgary, suivi d'une enquête sur place à l'aide d'une caméra thermique Xistios. Les équipes ont procédé à une évaluation 360 degrés de zone d'intérêt et n'ont trouvé aucun signe de présence humaine. À 6 heures, un ingénieur géotechnique de la Force opérationnelle canadienne 1 a procédé à une évaluation de la stabilité des pentes, ce qui a permis aux spécialistes de la sécurité des visiteurs de récupérer le corps de la victime avant les chutes de neige prévues aujourd'hui. Parc Canada et la GRC sont soulagés d'annoncer qu'aucune personne n'est portée disparue aux chutes du glacier Bow. Par mesure de sécurité, la fermeture de la zone immédiate autour des chutes du glacier Bow reste en vigueur. Les évaluations géotechniques indiquent que cet effondrement rocheux tragique est le résultat d'un processus d'érosion naturelle dans les zones montagneuses. Malheureusement, cet événement extrêmement rare semble avoir été impossible à prévenir ou à prévoir. Cependant, la sécurité est notre priorité absolue et Parc Canada prendra le temps d'examiner toutes les options avant de prendre des décisions concernant la réouverture de la zone. Parc Canada et la GRC tiennent à remercier leurs partenaires qui ont assuré la sécurité lors de cet incident, notamment l'équipe de sauvetage en montagne Kananaskis de Parc Alberta, le service d'incendie de Lake Louise, le service d'incendie de Banff, l'ambulance aérienne Stars, les hélicoptères Alpine, les services médicaux d'urgence de l'Alberta, les services médicaux d'urgence de Banff, la Force opérationnelle canadienne 1, la Force opérationnelle canadienne 2 et le service de secours de Calgary. Je veux aussi saluer le support exceptionnel fourni par le Improvement District numéro 9 et le personnel du Lodge at Bow Lake. On estime au total qu'il y a environ 100 personnes qui ont participé à l'intervention. Parc Canada et la GRC présentent leurs sincères condoléances aux familles et aux amis des 2 personnes qui ont perdu la vie. Nos pensées accompagnent également les personnes hospitalisées et on leur souhaite un rétablissement rapide. Merci.
Thank you, François. Nous allons maintenant prendre les questions des représentants des médias. We would now like to open the floor to media.
Yves Côté, Radio-Canada.
Hello, bonjour. Can you hear me?
Oui.
Oui, parfait. Ma question va être en français. La première, j'aimerais savoir quelles mesures qui seront prises avant de rouvrir le secteur du glacier Bow pour le public. Est-ce qu'il va y avoir des travaux qui vont être faits sur la paroi ou du grillage qui va être apposé?
Merci Ève. L'environnement est un environnement d'arrière-pays montagneux. C'est très peu probable qu'on fasse des travaux sur la paroi. Par contre, c'est clair qu'il va y avoir des évaluations qui vont être faites avant qu'on réouvre la zone. Pour l'instant, toute la zone qui entoure les environs de la chute de roche est fermée, va rester fermée pour le futur immédiat.
Parfait, merci beaucoup. Ma deuxième question, ce serait de savoir si l'incident qui est survenu va mener peut-être à des inspections le plus en détail d'autres sites dans les Rocheuses qui pourraient être à risque aussi d'éboulement.
Oui, comme je disais, il est encore très tôt pour commencer à considérer des questions futures comme celle-là. Donc, ce qu'on fait pour l'instant, c'est qu'on se concentre sur cette zone-là, puis après ça, on va voir là, si on prend des mesures différentes. Mais il y a une chose qui est très importante à noter, c'est que le phénomène qui s'est produit, c'est un phénomène naturel en montagne qui est causé largement par le cycle de gel-dégel. Dans un environnement montagneux, c'est le genre de circonstances qui peut se produire de façon là, assez régulière. D'habitude, on observe des beaucoup plus petites chutes de roches. C'est très rare des événements majeurs de cette ampleur-là. Par contre, les chutes de roches mineures sont très fréquentes en environnement montagneux.
Merci.
Okay, Scott Strasser, your outlet, please.
Calgary Herald and Sun. Apologize, I didn't understand the 2 previous questions, so I hope I don't ask the same question. But we did report on a rockfall in August 2023 at the same location. I was curious if Parks Canada feels that these 2 falls are a coincidence, and if there's anything that was kind of done after that first fall in 2023 to kind of assess the stability of that cliff in particular.
Thanks, Scott, for the question. So yes, indeed, we've been able to confirm that in August 2023, Parks Canada safety specialists responded to a call to assist a hiker who had been injured near Bow Glacier Falls in Banff National Park. The hiker was off trail and exploring near the base of the falls when they observed rockfall occur. They were not impacted by the rockfall, but as they were moving to a safer location, they tripped and fell, suffering minor injuries. So they were assisted by bystanders, and notified the visitor safety team who helped out the individual. So the amount of rockfall at that time was within normal ranges for mountainous terrain near flowing water. There were no further indications of instability immediately following the 2023 incident or since that incident. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And my follow-up is, were there 2 rock falls yesterday, like one smaller one and then 10 minutes later, the larger event?
I can, Lisa, did you want to go or?
Yeah, I haven't had any reports to that effect from anything that we've heard from the bystanders. It sounded like almost as what's out on the video as on that's out there in the social media. What you see there, I think, is what happened.
Okay. Thanks.
François, I would like to put you on the spot a little bit. We've had a couple of requests. If it is possible for you to do brief translation of some of the questions that we're receiving, that would be really helpful for some of our French outlets on the call, and vice versa. If we do have French questions, if we're able to lean on you to translate those into English, that would help us a lot. I know we're putting you on the spot. Live translation is a bit much to ask, but it would be quite helpful. Thank you.
I'll give it a shot. Do you want me to translate the last question in French very quickly, or just we'll do that for the following ones?
If you wouldn't mind addressing the last question, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yes, for sure. OK, merci. Donc, la dernière question mentionnait qu'il y a un événement semblable. Il y a une chute de roche qui avait été rapportée dans une zone similaire en 2023. Et la question, c'est de savoir qu'est-ce qui s'était produit à ce moment-là, puis qu'est-ce que Parc Canada avait fait suite à cet événement-là. Donc, la réponse à cette question-là, c'est qu'effectivement, on est capable de confirmer que le 26 août 2023, les spécialistes de la sécurité du visiteur de Parc Canada ont répondu à un appel pour assister à un randonneur qui avait été blessé près de la chute du glacier Bow au Parc national de Banff. Le randonneur était hors sentier à ce moment-là. Il était en train d'explorer près de la base des chutes quand il a observé une chute de roche. À ce moment-là, le randonneur s'est mis à courir pour essayer d'échapper à ce qu'il percevait être un risque. Malheureusement, en s'enfuyant, il s'est accroché et il est tombé et il a été victime de blessures mineures. Il y a des passants qui ont assisté le randonneur à ce moment-là jusqu'à l'arrivée des spécialistes de la sécurité du visiteur de Parc Canada. À ce moment-là, la chute de roche qui a été observée était à l'intérieur des paramètres normaux pour ce qu'on peut s'attendre en terrain montagneux près de chutes d'eau. Donc, il n'y a pas eu d'autres indications d'instabilité à cet endroit-là immédiatement suite à l'incident ou dans les 2 années qui ont suivi.
Okay. Megan Cobb, your outlet, please, and your question.
So I can handle that question, Megan. At this time, the notification of next of kin has not been done, so we will not be sharing that. However, once we can verify that that is done and family have been notified, we would certainly send out an update.
Can probably take that one. So at this time, we're not able to put a specific figure on it. That would take some LiDAR assessment. So that is not an information that we have right now if you're looking for cubic meters. However, one thing that we can say is that the scope and size of this rockfall is extremely rare for the mountain environment. And do you want me to translate in French right now? I can try and do that. Donc, la première question était, on demandait des détails sur l'identité de la deuxième victime. La réponse de la GRC indiquait que les proches de la victime n'ont pas encore été avisés. Donc, à ce moment-ci, ils ne peuvent pas donner d'informations supplémentaires sur la deuxième victime. La deuxième question était à savoir si on pouvait donner plus d'informations sur l'étendue et la taille de la chute de roche. Et la réponse à cette question-là était que à ce moment-ci, on n'est pas capable de mettre un chiffre spécifique sur le volume, les mètres cubiques de la chute de roche qui a été observée, parce que ça demande une évaluation avec des radars LIDAR. Donc, on n'a pas cette information-là encore à ce moment-ci. Par contre, ce que je peux dire, c'est que c'est un événement d'une magnitude qui est extrêmement rare, là, même en milieu montagneux, pour le volume de roche qui a été observé, qui s'est détaché de la paroi. Merci.
Merci. Thank you, Megan. Now we have Carrie Tate. Your outlet, please, and your question.
I'm a reporter with the Globe and Mail. I'm wondering if you can go over the number of people that were involved again. I'm a little unclear. You had said 13 injured and uninjured bystanders were evacuated. Does that mean 13 injured plus more who were uninjured, or 13 total, including the 3 who were taken to hospital?
Should I jump in there, Francois? So our team on arrival with Alpine helicopters, with visitor safety and an advanced care medics from Banff EMS. On overview, we could see that there were 4 individuals on the debris, and there were bystanders caring for them. We estimate it was around 11 bystanders there that may have had some minor injuries, but nobody else required ambulance or EMS care other than the 2 very seriously injured and the one not as serious but still needed ground transport by ambulance, and then we had the one that was sadly deceased. Does that help?
Right. So 13 people
roughly, yeah,
were injured and taken out.
Well, no, they're bystanders.
Okay.
I'd say minor injuries if they had any. They may not. There might have been some people that walked out, but I would say it was a combination of minor injury, like they didn't need any care other than just we transported them from the incident site to the Bow Lake staging by helicopter with Alpine helicopters.
Okay, I think I understand. Like 13 people in total were taken out.
Yeah,
okay,
roughly.
Gotcha. And my follow-up question then is, for Parks Canada, do you expect the area to reopen? Is it stable, safe for visitors?
You want to answer that one, Francois? Or?
Okay, I can jump in. So, yes, so what we've done right now is we've reopened the immediate area around the lake and the trail to Bow Hut. So that's been reopened to the public. However, the area around Bow Glacier Falls is currently closed and will remain closed for the foreseeable future, because we understand that there's remaining instability in the rock face there. So there's going to be future assessments before we make a decision on reopening that area.
Yeah, and I maybe just add to that, it is a spur trail off the trail to Bow Hut. So it's, if people are worried about their access into Bow Hut, they don't go into that area. Just to point that out.
Thanks. Okay, maybe I'll do my translation duty. Donc, la première question, c'était une question qui demandait une confirmation du nombre de blessés. Donc, Lisa a confirmé qu'il y a eu un total de 13 blessés. Sur les 13, il y en a 2 qui ont été transportés par hélicoptère et qui ont eu besoin de... Pardon, 3. Il y a eu 3 blessés qui ont eu besoin de soins hospitaliers, donc qui ont été transportés soit par hélicoptère, soit par ambulance. Puis environ 11 personnes qui étaient présentes, qui ont été évacuées du lieu, qui avaient peut-être des petites blessures mineures, mais qui n'ont pas eu besoin de transport ambulancier. Donc, au total, on parle de 13 blessés, puis il y a eu un décès qui a été évacué la première journée. Et la deuxième journée, il y a eu une autre personne décédée qui a été extraite de l'endroit. La deuxième question, c'était de savoir si la zone restait encore fermée. La réponse à cette question-là, c'est qu'il y a effectivement une zone qui continue d'être fermée, qui est immédiatement, qui est le sentier qui mène immédiatement à la base des chutes du glacier Bow. Par contre, les zones qui sont immédiatement autour du lac Bow, ainsi que le sentier de randonnée qui se rend au Bow Hut, donc au refuge Bow sur le glacier Bow, ces zones-là sont maintenant réouvertes parce qu'il n'y a pas de danger, sont loin là, de la paroi rocheuse en question. Par contre, le sentier des chutes du glacier Bow reste fermé pour l'instant jusqu'à nouvel ordre. Il y a des vérifications supplémentaires qui vont être faites pour Parc Canada afin de s'assurer de la sécurité des lieux avant que ça soit réouvert.
All right, we have Phoenix Phillips, your media outlet, please, and your question.
Hi there, my name is Phoenix Phillips. I'm with City News in Calgary. We have been on the site and remain on the site as we speak. We've talked to a number of hikers that we passed by over the last little bit. The question I have is, what is the message to hikers who now have concerns about the terrain that they're walking on in and around Banff, and with the unavailability of cell service in remote areas like this one, what is the recommendation for future hiking enthusiasts who may come across a dangerous situation similar to this?
Hi, I can answer that, and that's those are valid concerns, and I think people planning on or having concerns, they are going into the national parks. You are going into, essentially a wilderness environment. It does require some trip planning to understand your trail, and there are inherent risks to traveling through the mountains. Maintaining that situational awareness of where you are in relation to cliff faces or wildlife, signs of wildlife, and just keeping astute to your surroundings are one way, where you choose to have your breaks, and what you're exposing yourself to, I think is part of just our ongoing education with how to travel in the mountains. Certainly those that have higher exposure, that are scramblers and climbers, they do, extensive research and pick their routes to minimize their exposure to that rockfall and carry extra protective equipment like helmets and, and they'll travel together and carefully. So if there was a rock dislodged, they're all together and not spread out across the slope. And then, descending carefully. So there's things that we can do to mitigate when we're traveling in that type of environment. They also try to spend very minimal time in gullies, and if they do have to cross the gully, they cross quickly. Certainly moving water over cliffs or after a fresh rainfall, or what we're having coming up this weekend with snow and freeze thaw. There might be more incidents of rockfall. Certainly when it's raining, there's sometimes more of an instance of rockfall. So educating yourself about some of those hazards and how they change, and then how it applies to your trip. And certainly our park information centers are really helpful in helping people pick trips that are appropriate for their skill sets. And then, of course, if anything were to happen, you're quite right. This is a very remote area. There is no cell service, and that's true for a lot of the regions. We really recommend people carry a satellite communication device. Let somebody know, and a satellite communication device where they can activate, and that is a very efficient way. We actually had 3 notifications come in through such devices on this incident, so that was helpful. And then the old-fashioned, let somebody know where you're going, where you're parking, what your vehicle make and model, what your trip plan is, and when you plan to be back is also helpful. But these days with the communication devices, I'd say those are a good investment to have within your party. I think
Just a
I
quick
answered.
follow-up, if you don't mind me asking. I'm curious whether or not the victims, the two that perished in this situation, were they wearing any sort of protection? Like a helmet, as you suggested.
I'm not aware of anybody wearing protection, but I don't know. Yeah.
Merci. Donc, pour la traduction, cette question-ci portait sur les inquiétudes des randonneurs, à savoir comment ils peuvent se protéger pour la sécurité dans les environnements semblables à ceux-là, puis aussi particulièrement dans un contexte où il n'y a pas de connexion cellulaire. Donc, la réponse là-dessus, c'est, bon, premièrement, c'est de savoir, de bien comprendre que l'environnement montagneux, pas seulement dans le parc de Banff, mais aussi dans tous les parcs de montagne, fédéraux, provinciaux, c'est un environnement qui est très dynamique, qui comprend beaucoup de risques inhérents. Donc, c'est important de bien comprendre ces risques-là et d'être alerte aux risques. C'est important de comprendre dans quel environnement on travaille, c'est quoi la nature du risque auquel on s'expose. Pour les gens qui font des aventures dans des territoires un petit peu plus risqués, comme les gens qui vont faire de l'escalade, il y a des équipements de sécurité qui peuvent être recommandés, comme le port du casque. Il y a aussi des choix de terrain qui peuvent être importants à faire pour que les gens puissent minimiser leur exposition au risque. Il y a aussi, au niveau du moment où c'est important, on sait que les cycles de gel-dégel, les pluies intenses, sont plus propices à provoquer des chutes de roches ou des glissements de terrain. Puis finalement, au niveau des communications, on veut renforcer qu'effectivement, la grande majorité de l'arrière-pays du parc et même des secteurs très près de la route, là, notamment sur l'autoroute des Glaciers, n'offrent pas de connexion cellulaire. Donc, c'est très important de bien comprendre ça, mais les gens peuvent se préparer pour ça. On recommande fortement aux gens qui vont hors connexion cellulaire de se munir d'appareils satellites ou de téléphones qui ont la capacité d'envoyer des messages satellites. C'est extrêmement efficace. On voit que c'est utilisé de plus en plus. Sur cet incident-ci, notamment, on a eu 3 appels qui nous ont été relayés très rapidement par outils satellites. Puis ça a vraiment permis d'accélérer la réponse. La question supplémentaire qui a été posée, c'était à savoir si les victimes portaient des casques. Et la réponse à cette question-là, c'est qu'on ne peut pas confirmer s'ils portaient des casques à ce moment-ci. On n'est pas certain.
Okay, Kathy Ellis, go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm from the Rocky Mountain Outlook. I'm wondering if Lisa could walk us through what the afternoon search and rescue operation looked like, how you came across the second body yesterday afternoon and about what time, and then into the morning, if that was a continued search operation or at that point just a recovery, and walk us through that, what that looked like.
Hi, yeah, thanks. It's probably easy for me to just walk you through from the start, Kathy, getting the call and rallying our resources and partners to respond. Obviously, we were alerted of a potential multi-casualty incident and were able to move immediately with Alpine helicopters, as I said earlier, an advanced care medic with Banff EMS, visitor safety staff, and then we also had visitor safety staff in Lake Louise that went by ground. We also had another search and rescue helicopter with Alpine helicopters load up with Kananaskis Mountain Safety. And so those teams started mobilizing, as well as all the EMS resources that Banff, out of Nordegg, and out of BC ambulance and STARS Air ambulance. So really did, just this big job of just getting all the resources moving, plus an incident command set up, starting to reach out to task force and supporting agencies that can assist. Also had Jasper Visitor Safety come down as well with their drone equipment. So our focus, the first, once we got on scene and we saw that there were individuals needing care, was to assess the residual risk and the access into these patients. And that was the primary focus. The base of this area is a big, gravelly, flat area, so we were able to land nearby and actually bring STARS right into that location. So that was amazing, to be able to have those physicians and medics right there for those patients. And then with the use of Alpine helicopters and the Kananaskis team slated those folks to sling the seriously injured patients, long line them to the STARS air ambulances. There was one up at the site and then another one down at Bow Lake. And then after caring for the patients and evacuating the bystanders by helicopter, our attention turned to searching the residual area from the air, recognizing that the middle part of the debris was incredibly unstable, and there were still parts of the cliff that were concerning. So really looking at minimizing responder exposure, but looking very carefully for any other individuals. The same time that response was going on, there was an intensive interview effort, talking to everyone, trying to really get a handle on how many people might be there. And it took a little while to sort that out, both with the RCMP and visitor safety working together, and the park wardens interviewing everybody, accounting for everybody in the parking lot, visiting people up at the Bow Hut, and really trying to neck down the accountability of the people that could be on the slope. We were able to, late in the day, I don't have the time handy, where we were able to search the periphery with the dog, the Parks Canada dog, and that's where we picked up the scent of the second deceased person. But we weren't able to we were concerned about the residual risk. We wanted to have a geotechnical engineer assess, and it was getting late in the day, and we didn't want to expose people to that risk without further preparation. So that's after doing the drone searching and the aerial searching, and completing that and continuing with the interviews, then that pretty much took us to the end of the day, with the plan that at first light, well, actually even overnight, so we maintained site security overnight, and then brought in Task Force 1 and 2 and the Calgary City Police with thermal imaging drone cameras, and they were able to, as mentioned, do those surveys very early, first light this morning even, and get the drone imaging, thermal imaging happening. Also had some the geotechnical assessment, and our team went in with the help of the Lake Louise Fire Department and some of their equipment. We were able to go in, and it wasn't an easy retrieval, so with moving debris. So the team did spend a bit of time there working there, so it was good that we had the time to do that, and with that equipment, and removed that last person. And then our attention turned, we knew at this point that it sounds like everyone was accounted for. We weren't aware of anyone missing from the interviews. So it turns to just continuing with the resources that we had. We did a full reco search of the area and found actually one target but then we were able to put in some task force people with a camera, and we went in and looked and just made sure that that wasn't associated with an individual. And a reco is just a reflector. People have it in their clothing. You can buy clothing with reco detectors, so it could be a reflected from another piece of equipment that's up there, but we were able to confirm that nobody was associated with that today. So that's our observations with all the searching tools that we had, the drone imaging, the thermal imaging, the reco, the interviews, led us to sort of wind down the search effort, as nobody reported missing, and everybody's accounted for within the parking lot.
I just have one quick follow-up then,
Yeah.
Lisa. Just
Yeah.
to confirm, it was Logan and Leroy who picked up the scent?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. The Parks Canada dog team.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks very much.
We did also have other dogs en route, and we also had the Carta dog handler from Golden available to us as well.
Yeah, I think just for the translation on this one, je l'ai juste vérifié avec les francophones si c'est correct si on vous fournit le... C'était assez long. Il y avait
Sorry.
beaucoup de... No, that's great. Est-ce que vous êtes correct avec un suivi après ça plutôt que de se lancer dans la traduction, le point par point pour l'instant? On va prendre le silence pour un consentement. So we're good. We'll just keep on trucking and follow up in writing after the call for a translation on this one, if need be.
That would be perfect. Thanks.
Okay, we have Ise Vosa. Please
Hi there,
pronounce your
it's-
name and your outlet. Thank you.
Yep, it's Viosa from the New York Times in Toronto. I had a quick question for Francois. You talked earlier about a natural process that's common in mountain areas, but that this event was rare. So I'm just trying to reconcile. Tell us a little bit about kind of what that natural process is, and if it's so common, why was this outcome rare?
Yes, that's a really good question. Thanks for that. So what's very common is the freeze-thaw cycle. So what happens is that water infiltrates between different areas between the rocks. So there's a crack that developed and the water comes in, water freezes, so it expands, and then it starts cracking the rock, cracking the rock, cracking the rock. So what is frequent, especially in the Rocky Mountains with some sedimentary rock that can be a little bit loose, is that those rocks are going to eventually be shaken loose and they're going to tumble down the slope. If you look in that specific area, like at the bottom of this rock face, there's a very large field of boulders of multiple sizes that would have tumbled down over time. So that is very frequent, and we're observing this throughout the mountains. What is less frequent, what was exceptional in this case, is the size of the slab that detached in one time. We've been able to see from the videos, we've been able to see from the debris on the ground that what happened there was a very large size of rock. So probably like a very deep crack behind the front of the rock wall. So that is not occurring very often. That's why we're saying that this was exceptional, its magnitude. But the fact that some rocks are coming loose and are tumbling down rock faces is something that is a very common risk in that very dynamic environment that are the Rocky Mountains.
Thank you for that. And I might have missed this, but can you recap what the weather conditions were at the time of this incident? And you mentioned snow earlier. When are we expecting to see snow?
Yeah, so the snow is expected right now. So when the accident occurred, I believe there was some light rain in the morning, but I would have to confirm. I know, Lisa, do you want to talk about that piece since you were more on the ground than I was?
Yeah, I'd say we had some rain overnight, and then Thursday actually was beautiful. A lot of the imagery you'll see out there is actually a beautiful day, but it was the night before. There's a little bit of rain. I didn't check the precipitation for how much we exactly got up there, But yeah, we've had a long period of very dry weather, and then just recently we've started to see some evening rain events.
Oh, sorry, kind of forgetting my translation side job. J'ai essayé de traduire assez rapidement. Donc, les questions portaient sur clarifier un petit peu la distinction dans ce parce que plus tôt, j'ai dit que il s'agissait d'événements qui étaient fréquents dans les montagnes, mais en même temps que c'est un événement exceptionnel. Donc, clarifier un petit peu la distinction. Donc, ce que j'ai expliqué, c'est que les chutes de roches, les fractures de roches sont des événements qui sont très fréquents dans les montagnes, principalement à cause du cycle de gel-dégel. Donc, il y a des fractures dans les parois rocheuses, l'eau s'infiltre, l'eau va geler, donc ça va créer une expansion qui va créer des fractures dans les roches. Donc, assez fréquemment, on a des roches qui se détachent puis qui vont débouler de la paroi. On peut observer ça de façon fréquente à travers toute la zone montagneuse. Ce qui est exceptionnel, c'est la taille de l'événement qui s'est produit. On parle d'un pan rocheux très grand qui s'est détaché d'un seul coup. Donc ça, c'est quelque chose qui n'est pas fréquent par la nature de son amplitude. La seconde question avait rapport aux conditions météo. Donc, on a eu récemment un cycle de précipitations assez significatif. Donc, il y a eu beaucoup de précipitations avant la journée de l'incident. Pendant la journée de l'incident, c'était une belle journée, c'était une journée ensoleillée. Puis, suite à ça, donc on est retombé en cycle de précipitation. Donc, il y a eu de la pluie cette nuit, puis la neige dont on parlait dans la déclaration, c'est la neige à laquelle on s'attend cet après-midi à ce site-là. Merci.
Merci. Now we have Ali Abba Amadi.
Hi, yeah. So I'm from the BBC in Toronto, and it's just a quick one. I just wanted to make sure that there were no more rescue efforts going on at the moment. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
Oui, merci. Now we have Erin Susa.
Hi there. Can folks hear me okay?
Oui, yes.
Perfect. Erin Susa with the Canadian Press. Questions sort of in a similar vein. Just wondering if, basically in that similar vein, like if there's any reason to believe that people might still be buried possibly under the rubble.
I could answer that. We don't have anything to suggest anybody else is missing. We've accounted for all the vehicles that are parked. We've had no other missing person reports, and it jives with whom we found with interviews that we've had with people. So we've stood down any remaining efforts because we don't have any other reason to believe that there's anybody buried there.
Okay, and just a really quick follow-up. Francois, you were talking about how this is a natural event that we saw here that couldn't be predicted, couldn't be prevented, but surely there had to have been some sort of safety barriers or anything. Like, I'm wondering if there were any safety barriers in the area for people to keep an eye out for something that might happen, and if there wasn't, why there wasn't, if this stuff happens naturally and often, you say.
Thank you. So before tackling that question, I will just add a little bit to the previous question. So just for context, out of an abundance of caution, before calling out the search efforts, even though we had no additional unaccounted for people, the rescue teams did a series of sweeps through the site with the use of drones. That included thermal imaging, that included RECO signaling. There were dog searches that were done. There were visual searches. So there was multiple layers of verifications that were done to confirm that there was no sign of anybody left. So just wanted to add that to what Lisa mentioned. And then in terms of whether there were safety barriers there, no, let's be very clear, this is a backcountry site. This is deep in the mountains. It's a trail, like there's a number of trails out there, which is in the mountains. So there are mountain rock faces all around it. So no, we're not talking about a paved area with a safety barrier. This is a backcountry area. So no, there were no like fences in that area. Should probably translate that, sorry. Donc, la première question, c'était pour confirmer s'il y avait encore des recherches qui étaient en cours, s'il y avait encore des personnes qu'on cherchait. Donc, la réponse, c'est que non, il y a eu un travail qui a été fait pour confirmer que tous les véhicules qui étaient sur les lieux, tous les gens qui avaient été rapportés comme étant sur les lieux avaient été identifiés. Donc, pour l'instant, on n'a aucun rapport de personnes manquantes qui restent. Donc, on est satisfait que les probabilités qu'il y ait quelqu'un qui n'a pas été retrouvé sont très faibles. Malgré cela, pour être extrêmement prudent, on a procédé tout de même avec plusieurs niveaux de vérification. Donc, il y a eu des survols qui ont été faits à l'air de drones, équipés de caméras thermiques, de détecteurs recours. On a eu des recherches qui ont été faites à l'aide de chiens pisteurs. Et il y a aussi des vérifications visuelles qui ont été complétées. Donc, à ce moment-ci, là, il n'y a plus de recherche sur les lieux. Puis, on est rassuré que tout ce qui pouvait être fait a été fait. Puis qu'on n'a aucun signe qui nous permettrait de croire qu'il y a d'autres personnes à cet endroit-là. Et la deuxième question, c'était de savoir s'il y avait des barrières de sécurité à cet endroit-là. La réponse, c'est qu'on parle ici d'un sentier de randonnée dans l'arrière-pays. Donc, c'est un environnement montagneux entouré là, de plusieurs parois rocheuses. C'est pas un environnement qui est pavé. C'est pas un environnement où il y a des clôtures d'installer autour. On parle vraiment là, d'un secteur de randonnée dans l'arrière-pays, d'un milieu sauvage en terrain montagneux.
Thank you very much, François. Thanks everyone for joining us today. And this concludes today's media availability. I would like to encourage you all, though, please reach out with any questions of clarification you may have. We're happy to answer those questions. We know that there may be lingering questions that were not been answered today. We will not be providing further statements or interviews unless new information comes available. But again, if you do need to reach out for more information, please contact us at llyk.media@pc.jc.ca. We'll drop that in the chat as well. Thank you again for joining all of us. And one last time, merci de vous être rejoints à nous aujourd'hui. Cela conclut la séance de questions-réponses avec les médias aujourd'hui. N'hésitez pas à nous contacter à tout moment si vous avez des questions ou besoin des précisions. Nous ne ferons aucune autre déclaration ni interview à moins que des nouvelles informations ne soient disponibles. Merci tout le monde et au revoir aujourd'hui. Thanks everyone and goodbye today.